undefeated and optimistic about the season. And actually, back when UVA was undefeated and optimistic about the season and it was still hot outside, and some things are still the same. Isn't that nice? But 40 days is a long time, especially if you're just sitting around waiting for something to happen. The Old Testament passage we read today was from Exodus 32. It's set at the foot of Mount Sinai. Moses had led the people out of Egypt. They've followed God's direction and found themselves at the foot of this mountain. And now Moses is going to go up to the top of the mountain to talk to God, bring down the 10 Commandments. And the people are to stay here in the camp and wait. So they watch Moses hike away and they start waiting and keep waiting. And a week goes by, and then another week, and another. You start to hear a little bit of grumbling in the camp, people wondering where Moses may have gone off to. Is Moses coming back? Oh, well, we'll keep waiting, but another week goes by, and another. And by now, some of them are starting to clamor for a new plan. All right, we really liked Moses. He was great. He did good things for us. We appreciate Moses, but let's face reality, Moses is not coming back. It's been 40 days now. It's time to move on. So I get it. 40 days is a long time to wait. And with Moses nowhere to be found, they do move on. They go talk to Aaron, the priest, and say, let's gather together all the jewelry that we have, all the gold in the camp. And so they do that. They gather it all together. Aaron helps them melt it down and form it together into a golden calf. And they say, okay, now this will be our God. And they say, these are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. My guess is that none of you have ever really been tempted to do that, to take all the jewelry in your house and melt it down and create a small farm animal. This is not something that's really part of our daily life, and the distance between this culture and ours can make the story, seem like a nice cartoon almost. I mean, it's very distant from us. So how can we make this a little bit more real, more tangible and tactile? As it turns out, our society does actually gather up metal and melt it down, put it into molds. We just use the faces of former presidents instead of cows. Some of you, as you came into worship today, may have picked up a coin from a little bowl by the door. If you did not get one of those, that's okay. If you've got a coin in your pocket, you're welcome to pull it out and hold on to it. Or if you didn't get one, you can take one as you leave today. But if you have a coin, I ask you to go ahead and hold it in your hand. Squeeze it between your fingers. Feel what the grooves feel like, the impressions, the dates and words, the ridges on there. It doesn't take much imagination for us to see how money can become an idol for us. You may have already come to that conclusion. We've all seen how the desire for money can motivate people. Seemingly, it becomes the only thing they can think about. Greed can be a real temptation for us. Wealth can become idolatrous, the thing that we worship, where we put our trust. But at the same time, it's too simplistic to just say, that's trouble, money is evil. Because while we keep holding this money in our hands or dropping it on the floor or whatever you would like to do with it, I want to think about that other parable that we read, the other story that also was about a coin, wasn't it? This parable Jesus tells. It's a woman who has 10 silver coins. Only suddenly she realized she is a woman who has 9 silver coins, and frantically she starts looking all over her house. She sweeps every room, looking in every corner, until finally she finds that lost coin. Now, quick sidebar, we don't actually learn how she lost that coin. In my imagination, she has 3 adorable redheaded children that like to hide things around the house, like the time we found Aaron's car keys in the toy microwave in the little kitchen, or the Costco-sized pack of granola bars hidden in a bedroom closet behind the spare diapers. or a newly purchased bag of grapes that was in a shoebox under the couch. But I digress. We don't know how this woman lost her coin, but she lost it. And she is so ecstatic when she finds it. She calls all of her neighbors. They throw a party. Let's celebrate together. It's a lovely, effective parable. But what I want to focus on now is how that coin is portrayed. Is it a potential idol, dangerous temptation, the evils of money and greed? No, actually. It is valued. It's cherished. The story takes for granted that this coin will be treasured. Jesus understands that his audience knows the value of a silver coin, and there's no judgment in the story about that. Just before this parable, Jesus told another story about the sheep, the 100 sheep. Quite a sizable flock, actually. And when the shepherd loses one, he searches everywhere until he finds it. And as with the coin parable, there's no criticism about treasuring the sheep or that, sheep can become an idol if you only care about having all of your sheep in one place. In this story, it's more about how we care for the things that we have. In Exodus, we see the gold coin, the gold melted down into a golden calf, and we know perfectly well that money can become an idol. But it's too simplistic to say on its own that money is bad or evil. The coin, it's just a coin. It can be used well or poorly. Used well, it can do a lot of good. But here's the thing. Money is harder to set down than we may think. I've made you hold this long enough. If you have a coin in your hand, you're welcome to set it back down. You can put it in your pocket. You can save it for later, buy something with that 1 cent. But the thing I want us to remember is that setting down a coin, easy enough to put it in our pocket, but it's actually harder to set down than we may think. This month of September, every week in worship, we've been thinking about our senses, how our senses invite us to experience God in different ways. That's why we had coins around to think about that tangible element. But even though we've set the coins aside now, my guess is that when you go home or when you leave here, you're going to want to wash your hands, because even though you don't see a coin, the next time you reach up and scratch your face or adjust your glasses or blow your nose, you're going to smell that coin, right? That metallic smell that stays on your fingers. Even after it's gone, it's not gone. It sort of lingers. And that's what idols do. They're hard to set down. What we cling to clings to us. What we cling to clings to us. Right? We learn a habit for how to meet our needs, and it works well for us until it doesn't anymore. If we're hungry, we go to Wegmans or wait in line at Roots, or wherever we go, we buy food. We need clothes, we use our money to buy them. If you cut your finger making dinner and you need to get stitches, you go to the doctor as long as you have insurance and a little bit of money in the bank, no problem. Money does make it possible for us to get our needs met, and we get used to that. It works until it doesn't work anymore. When an illness strikes that no amount of money can fix, or we're facing grief and there's nothing we can buy, nothing we can say, nothing we can do that makes it better. Still, we learned a habit to trust money for our needs, and so we try it. We think, surely if we go to the most expensive specialist or the best therapist or whatever it may be. Idols, like an idol of money, idols are hard to set down. What we cling to clings to us, even when it doesn't work anymore. And the reality is we can build all sorts of idols, can't we? Let's think of a few others. It's not just money that we're talking about. We can make an idol out of national security. We rely on police, the military, the government to keep us safe, and they do. And then something like September 11th happens. And no amount of military force can undo the damage that was done, heal the lives that were broken, or hide the vulnerability that is the reality of human life. We can make an idol out of science and medicine. We count on doctors and nurses to heal us when we're sick, and it usually works so well until it doesn't anymore. And we're at a loss. Isn't that what the doctors are for? Now, what do I do? We can make an idol out of our friends and family and relationships, the people who are always supposed to be there to support us. And they are. It works well until it doesn't. And we feel betrayed or disoriented because the place we turned for stability and support cannot provide that for us anymore. Our idols are hard to set down. What we cling to clings to us. And we may not even know that we've created an idol until we realize we can't let it go. Like Moses, we can't throw it down. Now, I hope you understand, my point here is not to say that any of those things is bad. I love my family. It's right to do so. Where would we be without science and medicine and security? How could we live without the monetary resources to provide for our needs and our families? We need all those things. It would be wrong to say that those things are bad because they could become an idol. Actually, I think we only make idols out of things we cherish, and many of the things we cherish are good. They are the best parts of life, the things that make a flourishing human life. The important question is our relationship to those things. Can we keep a healthy appreciation for them, using them well? Or do we cling so tightly to our money or security, health, friends, whatever it is, that we end up asking of them more than they can provide? Do we cling so tightly they become an idol? So tightly that the scent of them clings to us even when we try to set them aside. Because held that tightly, anything can become an idol. I'm sure you could list many more things, and it's a good thought experiment to think what idols are a temptation, what things like our careers, political parties, our own individual happiness, materialism. We can make an idol out of all sorts of things. But I do want to add one more potential idol to our list, one that might seem a little surprising. If you think back to those Israelites gathered at the foot of Mount Sinai, wondering what to do without Moses. They ask Aaron, their priest, to gather up the gold. They melt down the gold and create this God substitute, a golden calf they can see and touch. Unlike Moses, who's out of sight up on a mountain, or God who brought them here but now is nowhere to be seen. The new God, this golden calf, is tangible. It can be controlled. It can be contained. It is reliable. It's always going to be right where you left it, just the way they like it. And of course, we would never do that, right? We would never pool our resources to create a way to experience God in a format that suits us, in a way we can control, reliable, contained, just the way we like it. I was actually out running a couple weeks ago when that thought hit me. Can church become a golden calf for us? Are we Aaron passing around the plates, encouraging everyone to contribute so we can have a safe, comforting experience of a God in a predictable way, a style that we like, a format that's easy to control? Can the church, the very place we come to experience God, become an idol? And yes, it can. It makes me uncomfortable to think about that even church can become idolatrous. If we start to worship our ideas about God, or our impression of God, our preferences about worship, or our ministers, our programs, our music, our ministries, anything at all other than God. When we do that, church can become an idol. Our faith can become an idol. Now, in no way does that make church bad. Church is good. It just means that we are human. And as human beings, whether at Mount Sinai, here in this sanctuary, in our own devotional life, wherever we are, we're always tempted to create an idol, tempted to take even the good things, even the best parts of life, and make them into a god for ourselves. Because what idols are, it's an attempt to take the wildness and mystery of life and of God and tame it. Make it a little easier for us to see, to touch, to control. After 40 days with no sight of Moses, the Israelites are scared. They feel abandoned by God. They wonder if God is there at all, so they make a God that they can see, a God that's not going to leave them, a God that's going to be there with them. And I get that. This story reminds us of the way that we hide from our fears. We seek comfort and security in all sorts of places. But it also reminds us that when we do feel abandoned by God, we are not. It reminds us that when consciously or unconsciously we build an idol for ourselves, clutching it so tightly we can't let go, making it the focal point of our hope and dependence, even when we do that, God is still waiting at the mountaintop for us to come to our senses. God is like that shepherd going out and looking for the lost sheep. God is still like that woman sweeping every room of her house and celebrating with her neighbors when the coin is found. When the idols that we inevitably make fail us, God is still there. We don't need to make a God for ourselves out of anything, because we already have a God who loves us, who is with us, who welcomes us back whenever we turn away. So whatever you use for your golden calf, even the good things, let this story remind you to loosen your grip a little bit. Trust that you can set those things aside and rely on God to be God. Amen. We come now to our time of invitation and response. How will we respond to the God who calls us, who keeps calling us, the God who stands above all of our idols? The invitation is for all of us. As we go from here, take a coin with you, take it and use it well. Take whatever might become an idol for you, and instead put it into the service of God. I invite you now, if you have a public decision to make, to come and speak with us, pray with us, and consider where God is calling you to be in your life. Let us stand now as we sing together, Jesus Calls Us O'er the Tumult.
Day by day, sweet sound.
As you go from this place, may the God who created you show you the path that is ahead for you. May Christ show you what it means to live a human life, and may the Spirit sustain you in all that you face. Go now in peace.
God be with you till we meet again. By his counsels guide uphold you. With his sheep securely fold you. God be with you till we meet again.
Joining us today in worship at University Baptist Church. We're glad that you've been worshiping with us wherever you may be. If you're here in the Charlottesville area, we would love to see you in person. We have Bible study every Sunday morning at 9:45, worship at 11, and we have Wednesday night dinners. We'd love to have you be part of our congregation in person. We invite you to come again next week and join us. We live stream our worship every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. We would love to have you come back next week and join us again as we worship God together.